Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to sharing session presented by me, Abdul Razak bin Ibrahim from Kolej Matrikulasi Johor. I'm very grateful and honored to be here presenting about my research on engaging ESL students' test skills using instrumental music in boosting their online test performance and test anxiety. Ladies and gentlemen, let's proceed with the introduction of my research. Today, online learning is an integral part of modern education in Malaysia and worldwide, especially in this pandemic COVID-19 era. Online assessment facilitates quick and clear reports on candidates' results and progress to the educators. Developing confidence is an important aspect of language learning, as they are not used to listening and reading online tests all the time or even practice them in their daily life. This is because listening is most important skill, as it is also the basic way of receiving language input, because people cannot talk if they cannot listen to what other people's presentation. While reading is also one of the most essential skills that all students must develop, as it is necessary for every subject in the college. Normally, reading comprehension exams often ask you to read and answer a series of questions about a passage of text that you may have never seen before. Test anxiety often affects a reliable evaluation of language learning, disappointing educators and students similarly. Although this situation leads to a distortion of test scores, suggestions for treating and coping with test anxiety have been seen, and test anxiety has certain influences on the learning process and achievement, mainly the test online. According to Krashen's theory, which stated that negative feelings such as lack of motivation, lack of self-confidence, and learning anxiety act as filters that hinder and obstruct language learning. So based on these, the researcher wants to reduce affecting filters of the students in online test classrooms by examining how these might look through the three categories that Krashen had proposed, which is motivation, self-confidence, and test anxiety by using instrumental music. These are also related to the online listening and reading tasks individually and assessment presentation in matriculation, because improving in their English competence is very important for students, where it is well known that they extremely need to score a band 4 in their MOET results. Let's look at the problem statement. As we know, test anxiety can interfere with the student's ability to perform adequately and prevent students from demonstrating their knowledge on examinations, because a high level of anxiety could hinder readers' attention to the test, as anxiety basically contributes to a reduction of attention capacity, and students face test anxiety when it comes to online testing, and therefore it can affect their academic performance. Meanwhile, poor study habits among students, readiness and confidence of oneself due to their prior language test performance, and also fear of failure are the problems due to the inability of understanding the language. And therefore, again, the researcher feels that in getting the students to perform and relax before facing their online listening and reading tests, the intervention of using instrumental music should be taken. Moving on to the literature review, based on Krashen's theory, where he cited in the effective filter hypothesis on motivation, self-confidence, and anxiety as three categories of variables that play a role in second language acquisition. In fact, through Bhagat, Wu, and Chang reported that online learning integrated with social network connectivity provides students and educators with an ecosystem of interaction and troves of learning resources, while the study by Galal S. et al. Showed that the usage of music interventions had helped to reduce the test anxiety, and other researches as well on listening and reading skills. The research objectives of this study are to find out whether using instrumental music reduced their test anxiety, to identify how the anxiety will be changed after using the instrumental music, to investigate whether the use of instrumental music helps to improve the students' performance. While the research questions are, how does test anxiety change over the 12 weeks study by using instrumental music? Does listening to instrumental music before sitting for the test decrease their test anxiety? And does listening to instrumental music before sitting for the online test improve students' test performance? Let's look at the methodology. Firstly, the problems are identified and study samples were chosen where students are separated into 3 proficiency levels. Then, the CTAS survey questions are used to identify their anxiety and confidence before implementing the first test. The researcher then implemented the instrumental music intervention before the first and second post-test of online listening and reading tests. The data are analyzed and WTAS survey questions are distributed to check on the students' test anxiety and confidence again. And after that, 2 more post-tests are carried out to confirm the students' performance before summarizing and suggestions made. Moving on to the methodology as well, the research area covered here is Kolej Matrikulasi Johor from the population of first-year students and sampling of 140 students based on their proficiency level. And as you can see, the research design, research instrument use, and also the data analysis used. And the intervention flow, as what I've mentioned earlier, of which students need to complete the questionnaires, the CTAS, and they sit for the pre-test 1, and data was analyzed, and implementation of intervention, and again they will sit for post-test 1 and 2, and the data was analyzed as well, and later students need to complete on the questionnaires WTAS, of which to check their confidence and test anxiety again, and the last one is implementation of intervention and post-test 3 and 4 before the data and analysis follow. Right, let's discuss on the findings. Based on the 2 graphs on the screen, the post-test scores were higher when compared to pre-test scores in both listening and reading. For all the groups, and post-test 4 results showed the highest achievements for all the groups, with an average of 91 over 120 for reading and 33 over 45 for listening respectively. For high flyers group, average group score increased to 78 over 120 in the post-test, with an average improvement of 43 marks, and none of them was below 50 marks following the post-test. This suggests that the students managed to overcome their anxiety, increase their confidence level during the test, and so we can perform much better in their results. These responses were also effective after the post-survey WTAS was carried out, along with 2 more post-tests, the 3rd and the 4th, to confirm on their improvement of performances in both listening and reading tests. Let's move on to the discussions. The overall effectiveness of the intervention in all groups have significant differences between pre and post tests for both listening and reading performance of the students. The results of the study showed that using instrumental music improved students' test performance and reduced their online test anxiety. And in fact, students' test anxiety changed after using the instrumental music. This music intervention was implemented in a very short time as part of the limitation of the study. Students were not given alternative into different music types and not able to choose whether they would prefer to actively play the music. Perhaps in the future, self-selection into the music intervention group itself would have resulted in a greater impact on stress reduction as well. Future researchers should measure the continuing effects of musical interventions on both the online test anxiety and the overall students' English performance with the use of more long-term musical intervention. As a conclusion, the use of instrumental music appears to have helped reduce test anxiety even after one musical intervention. This investigation into the use of music technology as an instrument to help decrease stress and online test anxiety proves that area of future research can be encouraged and as a significant challenge to the educators. Instrumental music is as a soothing device used to make students feel calm, motivated, and focused was adopted, as mentioned by Krashen's theory, to test the effects of listening to music just before the online listening and reading test on students' test performance. Finally, students managed to have positive impact after listening to the instrumental music, and the result showed a positive effect on their performances. Alhamdulillah, we must not only be able to identify students' weaknesses, but we must also be able to seek a remedy, take action to improve the students' ability, especially their confidence and readiness as a second language learner. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum.